Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate you joining us today for Book Talk. My name is Emily Bennell Marcus, and we are here for another installment of Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center's Book Talk. This virtual series focuses on recently published books related to our work on Holocaust education, defending human rights, and combating anti-Semitism, racism, and other forms of hate. We're excited to have Shannon Seban on this afternoon's program, who will speak about her new book, French, Jewish, and So What. For this session, please feel free to keep your videos on with your mics muted so we do not have any accidental disruptions. This session is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel so folks who were unable to attend today can watch. You are welcome to submit your questions using the chat function throughout the program, and we will do our very best to get to them during the Q&A. I am proud to be joined by my colleague Robert Sarner, Senior Editor and Writer at Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center and host of Book Talk. On that note, I will hand it over to you, Robert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Emily, and hello, everyone. And thank you for joining us for our 10th edition of Book Talk. The series has been going now for just over a year, and this is our second installment in our fall season. I'm excited to have with us our featured author today, Shannon Seban, who's joining us live from France, from her home in Rosny-sous-Bois, outside Paris, where it's now just after 6 o'clock in the evening. We'll be discussing her recent nonfiction book, as Emily said, Française, Juive et alors, which translates in English as French, Jewish, and So What. The book came out in France last spring, and Shannon aims to have it published in English in the coming year. Later in our program, as Emily mentioned, we'll be taking questions from our audience, so please do use the chat box feature at the bottom of your screen to submit your questions. Before beginning our conversation, I'm going to read to you a brief bio of Shannon, for whom the book we're about to discuss is a highly personal and candid endeavor. Born and raised just outside Paris in Seine-Saint-Denis, one of France's most diverse and economically challenged regional departments, Shannon is a city council member in the Paris suburb of Rosny-sous-Bois. First elected in 2020 at the age of just 24, her current role includes overseeing efforts to fight discrimination. An avid boxer, Shannon also fights anti-Jewish hate in several ways. Her book is just one of them. She often focuses on anti-Semitism at conferences in France and abroad. She frequently addresses the issue in media interviews and assists the US-based Combat Anti-Semitism movement. It's now my great pleasure to welcome Shannon to Book Talk. Thank you for taking the time, for being with us on for what for you, of course, is your Sunday evening.
Thanks a lot, Robert. I feel very grateful for this invitation. Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for the to the Friends of Wiesenthal Center for their invitation. Thanks a lot, Robert. Thanks a lot, Emily, for making this also possible. As you mentioned, Robert, we met together in Paris for an interview about my book only a few days after it was published. And I'm really happy to be here today with you in order to answer your questions, in order to discuss together and to challenge the idea and the bad idea today of anti-Semitism and to try to find solutions together. So I'm really happy to be with you and feel free to have an open discussion today.
As Shannon just mentioned, yes, I had the great pleasure of meeting her in person in Paris last June when I interviewed her for a feature article for the Times of Israel about the book and the work she's doing fighting anti-Semitism. I should say I read the book, of course, and I found it extremely engaging and at times quite sobering given the picture that Shannon paints of the current reality that she and other Jews face in France today. Making the book even more satisfying, Shannon writes in a clear, very straightforward style, which I must say is different from many other books I've read in French. So I encourage anyone who is comfortable reading in French until it's translated into English to read it. It's very accessible, and Shannon has the gift of knowing how to tell her story and the story of what is going on in France today.
Thank you,
Shannon,
Robert.
I'd like to begin our conversation, if we could, by you, in your own words, just briefly describing what the book actually is.
So to be very brief, and I'm sure that we will have the opportunity to dive into the subject more in detail during this interview. So actually, the book was an answer to the anti-Semitism and to like all the anti-Semitic attack I have been victim of through my political but also personal career at some point. So it was kind of a way to
Sound. We're having some.
Oh,
There we go. Shannon,
yeah, can you hear me now?
we can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So the idea of this book was actually to give to give some answers to the anti-Semitic incidents I have been victim of through my personal and professional career. So I'm also like speaking about my personal background, the way I've been like my education, the values I grew with, and like what I experienced, and also to give some solutions in order to fight anti-Semitism, racism, but also any kind of racism and discrimination.
As we see on the cover of the book, you chose to put a subtitle, and
Mhm.
the subtitle is Le combat d'une femme engagée pour la République, which translates as the fight of a woman committed to the Republic. And I'm curious why you chose that as the subtitle.
So actually, this subtitle is linked to the main title of the book, which is French, Jewish, and so what. After October 7, 2023, especially, a lot of people told me, okay, you are Jewish, but are you also French? As if being Jewish cannot be something which is doable, that can be linked to the fact that you are French. That means that you have to choose between okay, the value of the Republic, core values of the French Republic is laïcité, French secularism, the fact that the French Republic has to ensure to each citizen the right to believe or to not believe. And actually, in this book, I also go through this idea, and especially to those in France who wants to, let's say, damage the core values of the French Republic. So it was also an answer to Islamism, to the Muslim Brotherhood, to those who in the Republic, in the French Republic, want to make people understand that you cannot practice your religion. I can definitely see in my country that some extremists, whether they are political or religious, would like to make people understand that they cannot practice their religion. No, this is not a topic about laïcité. Laïcité, the French secularism, tell people that they can practice their religion if this is something which can fit to the respect of the values of the French Republic. And I will be more than happy to give you some example about this. But for example, together, like today in our modern society, the Muslim Brotherhood would like to make Muslim people understand and believe that the practice of the Islam is not something which is possible in the French Republic. They want to make people understand that the French Republic is hostile to the practice of a moderate Islam. The French Republic is hostile to the practice of a radical Islam. It's not like an opponent to the practice of moderate Islam. So this is also about laïcité, and I wanted also to tell people about my personal story, the environment I grew in, and what I have learned from my education. That it also explains how I'm thinking today.
In the preface of the book, you say that the book represents the completion of a promise that you
Mhm.
made to your late father 5 years ago. What exactly was that promise?
Actually, to be fully honest with you, this book, I wouldn't have written this book if my father had not asked to me to do so. Actually, my father passed away, unfortunately, in December 2019, and less than 24 hours before he left, and before he passed away, and I was not aware of that because it was like something very quick. I was not prepared for that. He told me, "Darling, at some point you will need to write a book," and I answered, Daddy, I mean, writing, like, you want me to write a book, but what's the subject of the book? You want me to write a book about what? And that was my answer at that moment. Like, I didn't feel like legitimate about writing a book. And then when he passed away in December 2019, I told to myself, I remember he told me about this. So let's do something about this. And I wrote this book because then life gave me, unfortunately, some bad opportunities, some bad experiences about anti-Semitism and all the attacks I have been victim of. And this gave me also reason to write a book. And that's why I decided to write this book now.
In the book, of course, in telling both your own personal story, especially recounting the anti Semitism that you have faced, you also highlight current and past events relating to France's difficult relationship with anti Semitism, which, as we know, has persisted to varying degrees for centuries. I'm sure many people in our audience would like to hear how you see the situation today for Jews in France.
So to be fully honest with you, and I am well, like people knows that I am very cash at some point. The French is now home to Europe's largest Jewish community in Europe. The fact is that I don't want to be like fatalist, but I know that the French population, like the Jews in the French population, the part of Jews in the French population is going to be maybe reduced in the coming years, especially because of the turning point of October 7, 2023. You do have a lot of Jewish who would like to settle in Israel or let's say in the US and so on because they don't feel secure here in France. And we have failed at some point. The fact is that what I often say to people when they told me that they would like to escape, that they would like to leave France because they don't feel in a good position now in France, that we need to have to fight back. You know, we also have in mind what happened like some years ago with Shoah, with the Holocaust, and all of this bad stories and this drama that happened in Europe for Jews. And I do believe that now we do have a huge responsibility to bear since October 7 was one of the second largest Jewish massacre in history. We cannot reproduce the history. We have to learn from history and we have to fight back. So in front of you, Robert, you have like a woman who is definitely, of course, conscious about the risk, conscious about the reality. I'm kind of optimistic at some point, but also realistic. So, of course, as I told you, I don't think that the Jewish population in France is going to grow in the coming years. But I mean, my fight and my main goal and objective while fighting anti-Semitism on a daily basis is to make French Jewish people feel secure. We cannot like accept that in our society you have, for example, as it was the case a few days ago in Les Lilas, which is a city close to the city where I am elected, that a young boy, 13 years old, was attacked in his building where he is living because he was Jewish. 13 years old. His name is Sasha. A few days ago, I had a mom over the phone. I really wanted to have her over the phone to express my full support and so on. She told me that Sasha, his son, is absolutely upset. He has, of course, some injuries in his body. He cannot leave his room because he's kind of traumatized of what happened because it was like a physical violence, which was very hard. And she told me, I have the feeling now, Shannon, that they want Jewish to leave France, but I don't want to leave France. I love this country. I was born and raised there. And I don't have the feeling that I need to go in Israel, a country which is in war, in order to feel safe. There is an issue at some point. And I perfectly agree with this. Our duty right now, our common duty, whether we are Jewish or not, basically, is to fight against anti-Semitism, to stand all together against hate of Jews, but also to fight back against racism, against any kind of discrimination, any kinds of hate, or xenophobia, homophobia, hate against Muslims, hate against Christians, hate against Jews. This is like a common fight. And I also want people to understand that this is like linked. When you attack someone because, for example, his religion, you attacked the old values and the Republic itself.
When I interviewed you last June in Paris, you had said that anti-Semitism in France since October 7th had not only become normalized, you had said even worse, it had
Yeah.
become fashionable.
Mhm.
So I'm curious now, where it seems the Israel-Hamas war may be over, if that is indeed the case, um, do you have any reason to believe that anti-Semitism will now become less normalized, less fashionable in France?
That's a good question, Robert. And I keep thinking that now anti-Semitism is becoming something very fashion. For example, yesterday in France, the singer Amir has been boycotted by the like common organization with called Urgence Palestine. And he has been boycotted only because he's like Israeli, Franco-Israeli, and Jewish. So that means a lot. So what I can see today on a daily basis, by the way, is that becoming like hating Jews is something very fashion. You do have the feeling at some point that when you hate Jews, you are supporting Palestinian people. Like it doesn't make sense, but seriously, it doesn't make sense. Let's take my example. I do believe in a two-state solution. I do believe that I am like really a support of the Palestinian cause and so on. But at the same time, I can be a support of Israel and I can be a support of Palestine. We can be both. And we have the feeling today that we need to choose. And even in my political campaign, that was also at the roots of this book, in June 2024, when I was attacked in the city of Ivry-sur-Seine, in the area when I wanted to run for the French parliament against the leader of La France Insoumise, the far left political party in France, I have been attacked under the shouts of "Move from here, dirty Zionist." They didn't know me. But they thought that because I was Jewish, because my name was Shannon Seban, that means that I was like a killer of baby and that I was supportive of the genocide. In my leaflet that was like showing people my political program and so on, I wrote that I was a support of a two-state solution and a recognition of Palestine. But to recognize Palestine, there are some conditions to ensure. And I don't think that a few weeks ago, when that was done at the United Nations General Assembly, that was the case because you still have like some hostages that was kept in the hand of Hamas in Gaza.
Early in the book, Shannon, you write that France, in your view, is at a critical turning point. Why is that?
Um, it's at a critical turning point because we can see that the French society is now divided in three blocks. And even in like, if you look at the National Assembly, kind of, you do have like the far left, the far right, and the center. But it's kind of split into three blocks, and we can now have the feeling that people at some point doesn't want to speak with each other. This is my feeling. Like communities don't speak between them. Political parties don't dare to find solution, to find compromise. Each of we do have like a society which is kind of divided, fragmented at some point. So that's why I do think that we are at a turning point where we need more than ever to affirm and to be proud of the values of the French Republic. And that's not empty, this is not like empty words. That means a lot. We need to be proud of our French flags. We need to be proud of being French. We need to be proud of bleu, blanc, rouge, of these colors. And I do have the feeling now that we only dare to show this flag, to tell people that we are proud to be French, only when there is like a drama like the terrorist attack in the Bataclan, let's say. You know what I mean? So that's why I do think that now in a society which is divided, especially because of international conflicts. We need to show people that we are more than ever united, whatever your religion is, whatever the color of your skin is, whatever your identity, whatever your origin is. You have to be proud of being French. This is the link between all the French people, and that should remain the link in our society in order to stay united.
Based on what's been happening in your country for the last few decades, I'm sure you know there are Jewish commentators who say, looking ahead 20, 30 years, there's no future for Jews in France. I'd be interested in your perspective on that.
If the question if there is like a future for Jews in France, right, Robert?
Yes, because there are,
There is.
as you know, there are people who say there is no future,
Of
long term, there's
course,
no long-term future for Jews in France.
I'm a fighter. I'm a fighter. So, and I will fight until the last minute, and we should all fight until the last minute, definitely. So there will be a future for Jews in France, but also all across Europe and all across the world, if there is a pass. If there is a will, sorry, there is a pass. But we need a will for that. If we all say all together, whatever our religion is, that we want Jewish people to feel safe in France, to feel at home, to feel secure, there will be a future for Jews in France. It's just a question of will and to action. We need to act. I can see that in our country we do have like anti-Semitic attacks every like days or every 2 days. It's becoming, as I told you earlier, it's becoming very something which is very normal. But if we all condemn, if we all act on both education and justice in order to punish and in order to prevent the fact that cliches and stereotypes against Jews are built, we will fight. We will win at the end. It's just a question of will and to act in order to put the means, the financial means, of course, but also the material, the human needs in order to fight anti-Semitism.
Somewhat related to this past question, and as you mentioned earlier in our discussion, many French Jews have actually already left France, either for Israel, the U.S., and even here in Canada, there are many French Jews who have moved, particularly to Montreal. Now, in the book, you write, and I'm going to quote what you wrote, I translated into English, but you wrote, "I love my country. It's where I grew up, and it's not hate that will make me leave. Much to the contrary, it's when there are difficulties that you must stay." End of quote. What makes you so committed to France?
Because I was born and raised here. I love this country. You know, I was born and raised in an area which is called Seine-Saint-Denis, where I am elected right now in the city of Rony-sous-Bois, and I have always been born and raised in an environment which is diverse and multicultural, where we love each other, whatever your religion is, whatever the color of your skin is. And I love this. I love this environment which is diverse and multicultural. I love France. I love everything in this country. So that's why I always tell to people that it's when it's difficult that you have to stay and to fight back. It's too easy to say, okay, goodbye. The situation is really worse. I will leave. Well, you know what I say? I often tell to people, to Jewish people that won't tell me, okay, Shannon, we will leave anyway. Our position now is to, and our future is only in Israel. I tell people, it's your right to go in Israel and to settle there and so on. But please, if you go there, if you choose to settle in Israel and to leave France, go there because of the quality of life, because of the sun, because of the food, because every reason, but don't leave France because of anti-Semitism. Why is that? Because if we do so, that means that we give the reason, we prove our enemies that they are right. We prove that those who would like to import anti-Zionism as a way to promote anti-Semitism, we give them right. We give them the reason to do so. So that's my point of view. It's when it's difficult that we have to fight back and to fight again and again.
Of course, that's, as you know, it's a very individual uh, decision for people to, and each person, I imagine, responds in his or her own way to the situation, but I respect what your perspective on that. In the book, a lot of it is very personal. And I'm wondering, did you have any hesitation in being so open? And was it difficult for you to share so much of your own personal story on the page?
When you are writing a book, honestly, you have a choice. Either you decide to write a book which is something very with facts, figures, and know to dive into your personal story and so on. But that was not my goal. I mean, the goal of this book was to tell people who I am, why I am thinking this way, why, despite all the anti-Semitic attacks I have been victim of in France, I have decided to stay in France. Why? Because all of these anti-Semitic attacks, I have decided not to hate others, but to make a difference between people who are attacking me and those who are not responsible for these attacks. And I think that it's also important at some point to go into your personal background in order to tell people who you are and to make people understand why you are thinking this way. So of course that was like obvious for me to tell people about the way I grew up, the values of work that my father taught me, the respect of other, the empathy, mutual respect and understanding. So that was like very important for me to give all of these details, and I feel at ease with this because I can now see that the book has been published like a few months earlier, that when I'm like going all around France and when I'm traveling even across Europe in order to present my book to people, like the people who read my book are very supportive, and I only receive kind of love at some point, so that means a lot to me, and that also give me like some strength in order to share my fight even more and to fight even more on a daily basis. But I must admit, because we are here among friends, that it's not that easy on a daily basis. Honestly, at some point, because I'm going also on the TV and so on, and now people openly say that, openly know, sorry, that I'm Jewish. I mean, when you are going in a French library, you can see some books, and in the middle you will have my face written Shannon, Seban, French Jewish, and so what with my face. You know what I mean? So I'm also taking a risk at some point when you know the rate of anti-Semitism in the country, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. This is part of the game. If you want to fight for something, you also need to take risk. And I think that this is also part of my DNA. So I also wanted to take the opportunity of this book in order to make people understand who I am, why I am thinking this way, why I'm so combative, why I've decided to run in the French parliament against Mathilde Panot, and I perfectly knew that I won't win. I only had like 2 weeks in order to win in front of the leader of La France Insoumise. So that was insane, you know what I mean? So I also wanted to take advantage of this book in order to make people understand like the way I'm thinking and how we can act also together in order to fight anti-Semitism, but also any kind of racism and discrimination.
As part of the personal side of the book, you write quite openly about how when you were growing up, you actually kept your Jewish identity very private. You say you even feared sharing the fact that you were Jewish with other people. So that leads me to the question, what prompted you to do almost a 180-degree turn,
Yeah.
and what prompted you to go public with your Jewish identity?
I really like this question, Robert, because as I told you, I have been like raised and born in a family where like our Jewish identity was something we were proud of. But the idea was that religion was at home. So if you want to express your religion, yeah, do so, but at home, like outside home, don't tell anything. Not because of fear, because of respect and because of the French concept of laicity. So I was born and raised with this. The fact is that when you are attacked because you have, I quote, a Jewish nose, which is a threat to the world, um, that you are a dirty Zionist, that you are on a daily basis attacked online, but not only online, also in the real life, because you are Jewish, I think that especially because of October 7, 2023, you feel that you have a duty, like a duty to tell people who you are and to be proud of who you are. So that means that what happened is that, of course, before that, I hadn't defined myself with my identity and with my religion. But with October 7, 2023, things changed, definitely. And I said, okay, now I have to assume and I have to tell people who I am. Yes, I'm Jewish. And so what? What's the issue with this? And of course, I have completely moved myself like into to a position to another. Like before that, I was like very, that was something which was very private and so on. I didn't like, I didn't tell people that I was like Jewish on a daily basis because for me, there was no difference. Like the religion was not something I need to tell people in order to build a relationship with someone or to be friends with someone. But with October 7, 2023, I can definitely see that there was a change in mind and I have to tell people about that. Yeah.
And you've paid a price for that, obviously, because as you say in the book, um, both in going public with your Jewish identity and fighting actively anti-Semitism, you've faced and you continue to face, I understand, enormous abuse, even death threats, to the point where the state has had to provide you special police protection at times. So my question is, what is it like to live with that kind of risk to your own personal safety and security?
So, as you told Robert, actually in June 2024, when I was running, as I told you earlier, for the French Parliament in order to be elected in front
Allô,
of
salut.
la candidate, Mathilde Panot from La France Insoumise. After 1 week of this political campaign, I was attacked in the street, let's say a popular party in the street with barbecue and so on, under the shouts of dirty Zionists move from here. That was maybe the first time in my life that I have the feeling that my personal integrity was attacked and was under threat. So of course I called like the Minister of Interior. I called the political party I was a member of, and I told them, okay, this is what happened today. I still have like 1 week of campaign, and I don't feel really secure, to be honest. And before that, some people and some friends told me you should maybe think about having like a police protection. And I often said, not. I don't need this. I don't feel this is normal to have when you are a young elected woman. At that time, I was, I think, 28 years old or something like 27, 28 years old, to have someone in order to protect yourself. That's not normal. So I didn't want to do so. The fact is that they didn't give me the choice and I have to go with it. And I feel that this is like a pity. It is a pity
On
for
pourra
our
pas parler?
democracy. It's a real pity for our democracy because that means that you need to have like a police officer, police security officer around you in order to give people your leaflet when you share your political program and ideas and so on. That's a pity. That's really sad. So that was like seriously a bad experience. I understand that it was like much needed for my personal security, but that means a lot about the situation now in France.
Are you afraid?
I'm not afraid. I'm precautious, like I'm aware of the risk, but we are many women, many men in this situation in France, whether we are intellectuals, political figures, um, journalists. You do have a lot of people, whether they are Jewish or not, by the way, that are under risk on a daily basis because they have some stance where they fight anti-Semitism, where they dare to express their support for Israel, where because they condemn Hamas. Can you believe this? So, of course, I'm not afraid because this is part of the game. You know what I mean? But we need to fight back. And we are a lot of people in France that dare to fight back, that of course they are under police protection, but want to tell people the truth. So that's part of the game.
Just a reminder to everyone that in a few minutes we're going to be taking questions for Shannon from the audience. So if you have something you would like to ask her, please write your questions in the chat box at the bottom of your screen right now. Coming back to your personal story, Shannon, your parents were both immigrants to France. your father coming from Algeria and your mother from Morocco. What impact did that have on you in growing up?
So I would say that except from good food from my mom from Morocco, the impact is of course on the way I'm thinking. I can definitely see that because my father was born in Algeria, my mom was born in Morocco, and she was born and raised there until the age of 20. I have been raised in an environment where tolerance of others, mutual respect, mutual understanding is key. And I'm really, really, really proud of this because on a daily basis, I can see that I respect anyone, whatever their religion is, whether you are Jewish, Muslims, Christian, I respect others. And that changed a lot because we can see that, for example, because of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I can definitely see that some people sometimes would like to dive into hate of a certain community. They would like to mix situations. I think that in this society and in the current situation we are living in, we need to make a difference between what's happening in between Israel and Palestine and what's happening in France. So that's why I'm pretty happy about this. And I was also born and raised in an environment where my parents were not rich at all. We lived in a really modest area, but the only goal at the end of the day, and even early in the morning, my father also told me, don't take it too seriously. So that's something I really love to hear. And he also told me, always keep in your heart happiness. And that you make people understand in your face that you are happy, even if it's sometimes difficult, honestly, really, really difficult. But he also tells me like you need to do what you love. You need to do something you feel committed in. So I think that commitment is also at the core of my education background, like commitment, helping others, using empathy. This is like at the core of my political, but also professional commitment right now.
You write in the book, Shannon, that you consider yourself first French before seeing yourself as Jewish.
Mhm.
I wonder, do you think that is the way most French Jews see themselves?
I think so. I mean, actually, the French Jewish I'm speaking with, like all of them, they do tell me that they feel French and then Jewish. And it's something which is absolutely different. You know what I mean? Of course, in the title of my book, I've decided to choose this order, French, Jewish, and so what? Because I'm French and first and foremost French, of course, but also Jewish. I mean, my parents are Jewish. I mean, at home we were like practicing the religion on a daily basis and so on. So of course, but I can be both. I can be both, and this is like the main message of this book. You can be French and Jewish, French and Muslim, French and Christian, French and atheist at some point, French and Buddhist even. If you respect the values of the Republic, if you respect others, that's possible. And that was first and foremost the main message I wanted to make people understand because at some point I have been asked by some people, basically who were ignorant, that I need to choose between being French and Jewish. I don't think that I have to do so. This is part of my identity. And what I love in France is the fact that we have this diversity. I love this community which is diverse. When we can accept people coming from immigration, even like only if they are respecting the values of the Republic. This is really important. But people are losing this from their mind. And that's a shame.
You mentioned earlier, Shannon, you referred to the left-wing party, La France Insoumise. I believe they
Mhm.
translate their name as France Unbowed, the name of their party, as being anti-Semitic. We've heard a lot about them, and their leader Jean-Luc Mélenchon as hardcore anti-Semites. I'm wondering, do you see the threat of anti-Semitism today coming more from the left or from the right, or is it equal from both sides?
To be fully honest with you, and you definitely know my political line at some point, neither La France Insoumise, which is the far left, neither the National Rally, which is the far right. So I'm fighting extremism, whether it is like political or religious. Also, I should mention. The fact is that I have been victim of anti-Semitism from both sides. Before October 7, 2023, I have been attacked by a neo-Nazi activist who is French, but who has decided to escape in Japan in order to escape all the condemnation from justice he had over the past years. And he is the one who said that my nose was a threat to the world. So I know what it is to have like anti-Semitism coming from the far right. But on the other hand, after October 7, 2023, I must admit that I have been mainly victim of anti-Semitism coming from the far left and especially from La France Insoumise. That's a reality. Why is that? Because La France Insoumise in our country just have to, like, so that the people who are listening to us can understand. They are speaking of Gaza from morning to evening. They do not even have another topic in their political program. It's only about Gaza and Palestine. Why is that? Because this is electoral opportunism in order to gain voters among a certain community. And I can definitely see it. A few months early, like that in a few months, we will have in March 2026 the municipal election in France. I can see many stuff that are like particularly preoccupying. You do have now a lot of mayors who have decided to implement the Palestinian flags in the front of their city hall. And that's not allowed, but they are doing so in order to gain voters among a certain part of the voters, among a certain part of the community. So what I can see is that the far left, of course, because they have designed all their political program and strategy around electoral opportunism, they are now the most dangerous at some point, yeah.
Before taking some questions from our audience for you, I'd like to ask, what do you hope readers will take from your book after they read it?
So I will say that I hope that this book, I really hope that this book will make people understand who I am, that they will make people understand that we can fight anti-Semitism as we can fight any kind of racism and discrimination. That in France we are same nation and that we should definitely not be being driven by electoral opportunism as we can see it now in France. And that there is an urgent, but seriously an urgent topic we need to address, which is the fight against the Muslim Brotherhood, against Islamism, and against like extremism, whether it is political and religious. In my book, I also share a lot of personal travels and professional travels I made all across the world, and especially one trip in the UAE, in the United Arab Emirates, where the Muslim Brotherhood has been banned. In Europe, the Muslim Brotherhood are not even recognized as a terrorist organization. And they are like spreading their ideology of hate on a daily basis. And that's particularly preoccupying. So in this book, I speak of course, about immigration, about integration, and I give also some solution in order to move forward real integration in our country. I speak about, of course, education, but also about the urgent action we need to take in order to move forward and not to let our country be damaged by extremism.
Okay, I'm just going to look in the chat box to see if we have some questions. We do from our audience. The first one is from Jane Knuth in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it's following up on what you just said. You're talking about solutions. So Jane asks, do you propose specific solutions in your book? How can citizens show their allegiance to the values of the French Republic?
Thank you, Jane, for this question. Yeah, of course. In this book, you do have like a part which is specifically in that deals with solutions and specific solutions in order to fight hate, racism, and discrimination, and to give like those who are listening to us today some insights. I'm speaking, for example, about education. I'm really convinced, and I can see it also as an elected official in charge of combating discrimination and promoting the French concept of laïcité in my city, that education is key. Education, of course, at school, but also, and of course, at home. So that's the main point in order to unbuild cliches and stereotypes. The second like key and solutions I gave to my reader is about immigration and integration. What I can see is today that we have like a pace and some requirements when it comes to integration that are too low, really too low when it's compared to Germany, for example, or to some Nordic countries like Denmark. So I compare some model of integration in some countries and I try to give some solutions in order to make our system of integration more effective. And I also speak, but there's also some of the keys about justice. We need to be more strict, more rigorous when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism. I will give you here an example, which is really recent. A few months ago, in the city of Épinay-sur-Seine, in Seine-Saint-Denis, in the area where I am elected, there was like a tree that was planted years ago in the memory of Ilan Halimi. Ilan Halimi was a young adult who has been attacked and put to death because he was Jewish. That was insane. He was like only like 20 years old, I guess, at that time. So he has been like murdered because he was Jewish.
If I could just add,
So
if I could just add, excuse me, Shannon, he was kidnapped, actually,
he
right?
was kidnapped,
By a
then
gang.
tortured.
Yeah.
Yeah, tortured and so on by a gang, and then he was murdered. So because he was Jewish. So they have decided at the time to plant a tree for his memory. A few months ago, this tree was killed kind of by two Tunisian boys.
It was cut
Uh,
down.
yeah, and the justice and the trial has decided to condemn the two boys, but not to say that this is because of anti-Semitic attacks. That's a shame. How can you tell people that this attack was not an anti-Semitic incident? So that means that during the night, it's normal to go in a forest with an arm, like I don't know how to say it in English, but like in order
Axe.
to cut,
An axe.
okay, in order to kill a tree, and you choose specifically this tree, which was planted in the memory of Ilan Halimi, and that's not anti-Semitic. Seriously? So a few days later, the trial has decided to change its position, and now they will be judged again. You know what I mean? That means a lot. That means that you have to be strict when it comes to justice in order to punish and also to learn to next generation that they have to be very careful when it comes to fighting anti-Semitism.
Well, you mentioned, Shannon, the judicial system in France, especially in dealing with anti-Semitic crimes. There's, of course, the famous case I guess it's 4 or 5 years ago, where this Muslim man attacked this elderly Jewish woman in Paris and literally threw her off the balcony and killed her. And when he went to trial, the judge said, well, he was high on drugs, so he wasn't held criminally responsible.
Yeah.
So, yes, that's another shocking case.
Exactly.
Of what can happen in French justice. Let me turn to the chat box and see. We have a question here from Andre Goldstein, actually from your part of the world, Shannon, from Paris.
Uh-huh.
He is asking that since you are a member of Emmanuel Macron's party, and with the presidential elections on the horizon, how you see your future politically, and given the criticism that is increasingly voiced against Macron.
That's a good question, and thank you, Andre, for asking me this question. I have always been very clear on that. I'm a free and independent woman, so that means that I belong to a political party, but I'm free, and I won't tell something I do not agree with. Specifically on this question of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, I have expressed very quickly, by the way, the fact that I disagree with President Macron's position on this, that I do think that we cannot, that like recognizing a Palestinian state where you still have some hostages that are kept by Hamas in Gaza is insane. And to be fully honest with you, I was in Israel like only 3 days ago, and I was guided over an exhibition about October 7, which shows some what happens with Hamas. That shows like some official document where you can see that the Hamas main ideologies are need to kill Jews and so on. I didn't need to go to this exhibition to know this, but I saw like the official document that were found on the body of the terrorist of Hamas. And that was particularly preoccupying. So my position on this is that I'm an independent woman, that I am a pro-Israeli, as I'm also at some point a pro-Palestine cause. But of course, there is something which is really clear. I'm against Hamas. And on this topic, I do think that we cannot build peace in the region if we do have Hamas in the story, if you wish. So that's my goal. When it comes to my political future, I don't know. What I know is that at the moment, my main fight is the fight against a terrorist organization. And I want to make people understand, especially because I'm a small person, you know what I mean? I don't have the pretension to be like someone who can change, who can make things change. But at least if I can make people understand, and especially French people from the left, I must admit, that they are making the wrong choice when they are defending Hamas, that will be something good at some point.
Well, because of time, that's all the questions we can take, because that does bring us to the close of this latest installment of FSWC's Book Talk series. I want to thank everyone for taking the time out of your Sunday to be with us, to join us. And of course, I'm especially appreciative of Shannon for being our featured guest today. If you're interested in purchasing Française Juive et alors, it's available online and from many bookstores that sell French language books. And Shannon, as I mentioned, plans to have the book published in English next year. We hope you'll be able to join us for our next edition of Book Talk, scheduled for November 25th, when our guest will be Jack Fairweather, who will be joining us to discuss his recent nonfiction book, The Prosecutor, One Man's Battle to Bring Nazis to Justice. As always, we invite you to send us your feedback and your suggestions of writers of new books that you think would be of interest to our community for future editions of Book Talk. And with that, on behalf of friends of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, I want to again thank all of you for being with us here today for our latest edition of Book Talk, and especially to you, Shannon. And I say to you, keep up the good fight. We have so much respect for you, for the work you're doing, and the courage that you demonstrate every day in the face of what you're facing in terms of the abuse from the anti-Semites. So thank you again, Shannon. Bon courage, bonne réussite
Merci.
en tout ce que vous faites. And thank you to everyone for being with us today.
Thanks a lot, Robert. Thanks a lot, Emily. Thanks a lot to the French of Simon Wiesenthal Center for the wonderful work you are doing. And let's keep in touch. Please feel free to write me. And if you have like any questions or suggestions, I will be glad to hear. So thanks a lot, and have a nice day then.
You too. Thanks so much, Shannon. Be well.